I'm here with Josh Gapp, and Josh, first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Reid, first of all, thank you for having me here today. Um, I, you, we're going to be this is going to be played at a later date, so I think July 16th, and we're at the beginning of June. So just to give the listeners context, we've just kind of come out of the coronavirus lockdown, and over the last week, we've had the riots take place in the cities across the nation. So the context of our questions today might be very different, 6 weeks from now when this gets played. But so to tell you a little bit about myself, obviously my name's Josh Gapp. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm the oldest of seven. I spent the first part of my childhood growing up in a trailer court, and my parents, taught me that with hard work and perseverance, you can make just about anything of yourself that you want in this world, which is what I've spent most of my life doing. Um, I think I was born an entrepreneur. I took out my first business loan when I was still in high school. I hired my first employee when I was 21. I've had multiple businesses over the years, some more successful than others, but we've been blessed that way. Education's always been important to me. I got my undergraduate degree, decided to go on and go to medical school. I got my doctorate of medicine, and eventually I got my MBA over at Vanderbilt. And so I'm a person of many hats and of many um, travels, I guess. So.
And so, why have you decided to run for election?
I, this is a there's a thousand answers to this question, but I think honestly, over the last couple of years, I've been watching our world and our country and what's been going on with our country, and I'm genuinely concerned. There's been a change in our culture. There's been a change in our country, and there's been a change in almost the ethos of who we are as a nation. And I've done what I can to be a good citizen and to give back to the community over the years. Through creating jobs and healing patients, and just trying to be a good person. And it doesn't seem to be enough. And so I'm doing the only thing that I know how to do, and that's take it to the next level and go to Washington and hopefully make some change.
So, what do you think is the biggest issue facing our country currently?
Currently, at least in the last couple of years, I believe political correctness has become a cancer in our society, and I don't say that lightly, and I don't say it to be inflammatory or incendiary, uh, but truthfully, it's become a mechanism of thought control and a mechanism of speech control. When you talk about issues with the other side, with the left, they if they disagree with what you're saying, instead of trying to debate you on the topic or on the logic of your argument, they call you nasty names like racist, bigot, sexist, homophobe, and it's become so ingrained now that so when I was growing up as a kid, back in the '80s, if somebody called you a racist, it's because you were a racist. Today, you get called a racist if you happen to be on the wrong side of an argument, and it's really stifled speech and it's really stifled thought and the ability to communicate with one another. And I think, given the events of the last couple of days, as I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, that's what happens. And if we can't talk and if we can't communicate with people without these barriers in place, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so that's what I think is the biggest challenge facing our country, and it's been for a while. It's been a growing challenge.
Now, narrowing it down, what do you think is the biggest issue facing Tennessee?
I so the issues facing Tennessee, I think, are an outgrowth of the issues facing the nation. Specifically, right now, coming out of the COVID lockdown, there's thousands of business owners here in Tennessee, and thousands of people who have lost their jobs and who've lost their livelihoods. And I think that's our most immediate challenge, and that comes from this problem that's facing our nation, and that's where I think we need to put our focus. We need to get the economy back on track. We need to get these businesses back open. We need to get people's livelihoods back, so that they can put food on their plate and roof over their head, and send their kids to college hopefully someday.
And what are your plans if you are elected?
So my plans, if I'm elected, I'm going up to Washington to make a change. I'm going up there to make a difference, and I'm I'm willing to be that lightning rod for the people of Tennessee to fight this fight, against political correctness and against these attacks on our culture and on our society, to uh, make the world a better place. Now, I know it's not going to be easy, and I know that there will be personal prices to pay for that, but it's important enough that I think that it's a price that I'm willing to bear.
And before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I, you know, I don't want to sound flippant, and I don't want people to misunderstand our message and what we're saying. Political correctness is a cancer. Yeah, I'm a pathologist. I'm actually, my profession is to diagnose cancer, and there's no other way to look at what's been happening to our world and to our society than that. Political correctness has turned into this tumor that's taking over things. The other thing though, with all of that I've said, I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I'm an internal optimist. I see the future of America and what it can be and what it should be, and we're gonna get there, and we're gonna win this, but we're gonna need to stand up to do it, and that's why I'm doing this.
Well, I want to thank Josh Gapp for joining us today.